Welcome to the Suicide Monk Podcast, a platform dedicated to fostering open and honest conversations about the deeply sensitive and complex topic of suicide. Before we delve into the narratives and discussions presented here, it's important to emphasize that we are not medical professionals, therapists, or counselors. We do not possess the qualifications to offer clinical advice or treatment. Instead, the Suicide Monk Podcast serves as a safe space for individuals to share their personal stories and experiences, all while preserving their anonymity. We encourage our guests to tell their stories anonymously, recognizing that privacy and anonymity can be crucial for those who wish to share their experiences without fear of judgment or exposure. Our mission is to create a supportive community, raise awareness, and promote understanding, all while emphasizing that seeking professional help is crucial when dealing with mental health issues and suicidal thoughts. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please reach out to a mental health professional or contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 for immediate assistance. Together, the Suicide Monk Podcast aims to break the stigma surrounding mental health and let those who are struggling know they are not alone.
So I guess we'll start in with some intro stuff, and that's give me a little backstory on who you are and what you've kind of gone through, and we'll get into the deeper parts of that, but just kind of a rundown of maybe your growing up.
Well, it was unique, to say the least, I guess. It's the best word I can use for it. I was homeschooled. I came from a big family. We went through a lot of stuff just as a family with a kid in the family who's chronically ill and multiple other siblings with severe mental illnesses as well. I grew up in hospitals a lot with my sister. I went through...
Just because of her illness?
Huh?
Just because of her illness?
Yeah. Never for myself. I wasn't sick like that. I went through sexual abuse as a kid for years. I don't know.
Physical
Chaotic.
Abuse?
Sexual.
Just sexual?
Yeah.
No physical, other than the obvious.
And right. Yeah. Mostly, I think.
And then what'd you say after that? I forgot. I missed it.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we could rewind.
I'm not good at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Trauma will do that.
Yeah.
It messes with the mind. You tend to be able to forget easier than you do to remember. So.
Right. And I've never done anything like this. So.
Yeah, me either. So this will be good. I guess the whole point of this is maybe prevention. At least that's the way I'm heading.
For other people?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how do you prevent something like that?
Well, I don't know. I've been struggling with this this idea that, people want to bring awareness to something that we're already aware of. I mean, it's not like we're not aware of the problem that, especially in this country, there's a lot of deficit in people's minds just because of how we're being brought up and raised, and we're being lied to constantly by the government, by the church, by the people that are supposed to be leading us and guiding us through this horrific world, and everybody's lying.
Yeah. So is your question why it happens?
Well, I think I'm curious what some of the better methods are to approach it. Is it just being aware? Is it having your own month for Suicide Awareness Month?
Right, September.
Big fucking deal. I mean, great. I've been suicidal since I was 12, and that month it's never on my radar. It's never been on my radar until somebody posts it on Facebook.
Giving it a month doesn't actually do anything.
Well, it doesn't do shit.
No, of course not.
So, but maybe just even just in an awareness, because it's like, and you had mentioned this to me, and I even struggle with it, is there's no, we don't have the money for counseling, and there's no, at least in this area, there's no one that's going to just do it. There's no one that's going to just talk to us about this stuff, because everybody wants to commit us, put us away, give us 3 days and then a nice drugged drugged up state of mind, and then they get to talk to us and talk us off the ledge, and it's like, well, that's kind of bullshit.
Right. I mean, what they're doing is making people into zombies, basically,
Yeah.
and it's a cycle.
Right. And so how do you, it's more prevention, I guess, than awareness. So it's, how do we as a society or people that struggle with this, how do we give back to those that are in need, that have mental issues, that can't seem to afford it or have the guts to go and try and do something about it? Because that's the other hard part, is you have to admit all this stuff to somebody, and then you're admitting something that nobody wants to talk about, and nobody wants to walk alongside or embrace or nurture, because most people don't think that way. Most people don't, some people, I've heard people be like, well, I think about suicide. Oh, do you? Well, that's nice. Well, that's terrible, huh? That you've struggled with it for a couple months because somebody started a rumor about you. Big fucking deal.
Right.
Take some abuse.
Yeah.
Take some real abuse. Toughen up.
Yeah.
But I know that's kind of harsh, but
no, I mean,
it's like, I get tired of people who say they understand it when all they've done is think about it. They don't actually understand, like you, like me. I've definitely gone through the process of, what's the end look like, and the whole process of that in many different scenarios,
right.
Fire, drowning, hanging.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't it's hard walking around every single day with the person that wants to kill you.
Right.
And you can't get away from them. Right.
I like that. It is hard walking around with the person that wants to kill you.
Yeah. And you can't get rid of them because you can't get rid of yourself unless you do that. Right.
Right. Yeah. Huh. That's an interesting statement. I like it.
Yeah. Well, it's true, isn't it?
It is very, very true.
And it's easy to, blame it on like chemical imbalance because, you have mental illnesses, severe mental illnesses. It's a chemical imbalance. So it's easy to just say, oh, well, that's why I'm like this. That's.
And I've not researched this part of it, but I heard something recently that, and I don't remember where, that they're, and this is probably true in this regard, they're too quick to diagnose chemical imbalance. But is there what I had heard, and I'd have to verify this and obviously do some research, but is that statement is not true. And I don't know that I've got a chemical imbalance. I've got a trauma imbalance. And I was talking to a friend of mine today about this. It's like, if you can experience trauma as a person, as a kid, you can experience death, even sexual abuse, physical abuse, spiritual abuse, verbal abuse. You can experience all that stuff, even back to back in the same home and everything that you do. Mm-hmm. The difference is that, like for me, for instance, I went through all those abuses and nobody ever came alongside me and said, hey, you don't have to live this way. This is not true about you. This is not who you are. You are smart. You are capable. You are functional. Just because this happened doesn't define who you are. Nobody walked alongside me when I was a kid and tried to course correct my path. It was always you are a piece of shit. You are worthless. You are dumb. We don't know what to do with you.
Right.
Where are we going to put you? I have a buddy who went through quite a bit of trauma in his childhood. His dad was really abusive and beat the shit out of him a lot. And the difference for him, we walked a very similar path, not necessarily in an abusive situation, but in the abusive situation, but not in the same manner. But anyway, when he was just a young boy, after experiencing that abuse with his father, his mom married somebody, and his stepdad was a really good guy and came alongside him and encouraged him and showed him that he could succeed, could be better than what he is. And that's exactly what he did. Mm-hmm. He believed the positive voice that was louder than the negative voice, and he still believes it today.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. And I don't know if you've had that. I don't know at what point somebody would need that to course correct. Because I've tried to course correct and I've failed miserably every time.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have, somebody on my side telling me that, or somebody that like came in and did that or talked to me or tried to help, ever.
Right.
So I can't really speak on that from experience at all, but I do think that there are people, not everybody who's abused ends up suicidal, and not everybody who's mentally ill is suicidal.
Right.
And I think there actually can be like a chemical imbalance where especially when you have stuff happen at a really young age, when you're still developing, and then you don't get any help.
Well, yeah. Is that the trauma response though, or is that a chemical imbalance? And that's what
it can be both.
Well, that's what I'm curious about, because
I think it can be both, because, I saw people in my family where it was like a chemical imbalance, and that played a big part in their mental illness and why they couldn't get help, because it was chronic.
Right.
Which means it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And even without severe abuse or anything like that, even with help, it doesn't get better.
Well, even with medication, I've done medication for, several. This last stint was about 2.5 years, I think. But even in my 20s, I was taking medication to calm the depression, and all it does is numb me. It doesn't take away the suicidal thought.
Yeah, because they haven't figured out a way to help with that.
Right.
They just don't. All they know how to do is
to numb you.
Yeah. Completely and sedate you.
And if you stay numb, you're not likely to do something. So
right, and it
But where's the quality of life on that?
There isn't.
There isn't, unless it's a short term.
Making you feel numb isn't gonna make you want to get better.
Right. Yeah, and it should be treated as a short term solution to a long term problem. How do you address the long term problem? Well, you'd say counseling or psychological.
You can learn tools to help with it, even if it will never go away. But
and that's the thing. My counselor told me that it takes about 2 years for somebody to change course through intense counseling. Yeah. And I would agree with that. And then the 3rd years, she said something about it just gets exponentially better. But the problem is if there's, and this is what I struggle with, and this is part of my problem right now, is that I've been doing this since I was 12. I've been going to counseling since I was 10. Mm-hmm. I'm fucking tired. I'm tired of fighting so hard for a life that is only diminishing. And I don't know how else to negate that other than doing this right here. Yeah. And maybe this won't do it. Maybe talking about it won't do it, because I'm exhausted talking about it. Yeah. But generally, mainly because people just don't understand. Yeah. They, your closest of friends don't know how to support you in something that they can't feel or see. Or they've never gone through or felt or. Yeah. And even on a minimal basis, people can say, well, I'm suicidal. And that's what I was kind of trying to touch on earlier, was that they really don't understand the detriment of suicide and what it does. And they don't understand not getting out of bed. They don't understand having sex and then curling up like a ball because you feel dirty, or you're in a crowd and you're 100% alone. You have, like, I've got some of the best friends I could ever ask for, and I feel alone in everything I do. Yeah. Yeah. Like not being able to take care of yourself at all, even the basics, which seem so mediocre to everybody else, but it feels like just... Well, it's a constant chore. Debilitating just to live, Well, and it's constant failure. Yeah. It's consistent failure. Like, for me, I do it every day. Like, things I've done 100 times I can't do sometimes
Yeah.
consistently. And I don't have a good example for that right now, other than I'll drop my keys and pick them up 15 times but for some reason I just can't grasp them.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so laborious. And that seems so small, but it's what sends me into frustration.
Yeah.
It sends me into a rage. And then that rage is like, well, look who you are.
Yeah.
Look at what you become.
Right. And you don't want to turn around and project that rage onto other people. So you just turn it inward.
Yeah.
Because, you don't want to hurt the people you love, but you're also exhausted of constantly hurting yourself.
Yes.
From turning it inside out. But where else is it supposed to go? If you want people to support you and love you, you can't constantly be blowing up at them and freaking out, because then eventually they get just as exhausted and can't deal with it anymore.
Right. And that may be where I'm at with my kids. It was nothing ever, at least that I know of, was taken out on them, like in anger. But when you see somebody, it's like walking into a room and you can feel somebody's detriment, their emotional detriment, and they're down or they're not there. It gets hard to be around that because you're trying to be uplifted and somebody's constantly bringing you down. So how do you, as well, we both probably deal with this a lot. We get very taxing. We're very taxing for people. Yeah. Because of our emotional instability per se. And I'm not clumping you into that. That's I think that's for me too.
You're not wrong. Just,
yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to put you down or anything like that. No. I mean, I get the same thing. So. Yeah.
Well, because it is. And I understand that it's taxing for other people, because I've felt that with other people, most of the people that I grew up with, and then I got into high school and middle school, everybody that was around me was suicidal, all of them. Yeah. So I understand how taxing it is on the outside when that other person is feeling that way. But I also understand the other half on how taxing it is to be that person.
Yeah, and it's very taxing.
It just makes it worse. It makes you feel so much worse because how they feel. I don't know.
Well, and here's what I've discovered about myself even recently. I'm just like, I'm pretty joyful, I'm pretty happy. But I've got a low grade, we'll call it low grade depression, constant. It's a consistent low grade depression. It's almost like a mud pit. It's just sitting there waiting for you. Yeah. I mean, to jump in and sink. Yeah. It's I'm just constantly just tapping at your door.
Yeah. It's always behind you. Yeah. It's always right behind you. Sometimes it's lighter, sometimes it's heavier, but it's always there. Yeah.
So let me pull up let me see if I can get some questions here. Yeah. The nice thing is this is recorded, so we can edit all we want. Yeah. The key or the goal is to not edit at all, but. Yeah.
Well, I'm not, good at this. I probably stutter a lot and have a lot of filler words in there, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's all right. It's, it's the first one. So, yeah. So is there anything that specifically triggers you or gets you, that sends you down a path of self-deprecation and suicide and down that thought process, I should say? Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know. I think multiple things can trigger me into getting worse, even though it never goes away. But I would say being alone, which I don't like saying because I'm a very naturally independent person.
Well, yeah, there's a difference between being alone and
I also get
intentionally being alone.
Right. Yeah. I have really bad abandonment issues. So if somebody leaves, even for a good reason, even when I know it's right, I split from them. And I have the instinct to just completely turn them into an enemy in my own head.
Why do you think that is? Obviously, pain's
I don't know.
probably
It's
the
easier.
root of that. But how is that easier? How is it easier to cut somebody out that possibly loves you?
So I don't have to feel the pain of them leaving because I know they're going to do it anyway. There's no good reason, and it's not a good answer because I know it's not a healthy habit. But
Well, no, and that's the whole point of
but
this.
I don't know how to take support or ask for help. I don't know how to do that.
So, well, yeah, I mean, I would understand that. It's usually a simple act of changing perception, though. Like for me, if somebody, it has taken me years to do this, and I still practice it because I'm not used to it. But when somebody gives me a gift, I just say thank you now instead of being like, oh no, I can't take that. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve that. I'm not good enough for that. And that's what goes through my mind. It's like, okay, why not just be grateful? So, and that's what I started doing, was just being like, well, thank you, or compliment. It's like, thank you, instead of, oh, that's, just downplay it and make myself
Worse.
look like an ogre.
Yeah.
For the most part. And people are like, well, no, it was just a compliment.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay.
I think part of that
But thanks.
I think part of that has to do with there's comfort in being not well. There's comfort in being depressed and in a horrible spot, especially when that's all you know. It feels like home in a way. So having somebody drag you out of that, what are you supposed to do?
Well, it's almost impossible as the farther you get into adulthood.
Yeah.
Like, it's easier when you're kids.
And it's harder to learn tools as in your adult because
oh my gosh. Well, then you got to remember everything you're supposed to institute when you feel bad. And you're like, well, no, this is my comfort spot.
Yeah.
This is my comfy little blanket that I sleep under all the time. And now you want to change blankets. It's like, well.
Yeah. And
I don't know.
I find a way to escape it, to escape my own head, right? It's always in negative ways that only really make it worse. And being so self-aware, I know it does, but I'm going to do it anyway.
So it's just an addition to the self-destruction.
Yeah.
It's just that's just proving yourself right.
Yeah.
Is basically what it is. And that's, I do that often.
For like a couple minutes, an hour, however long it lasts, for that little bit of quiet and peace, it can feel worth it short term. It does. Because you can breathe, everything just settles for a second, and it's not constant screaming and hell. It's quiet
in your mind.
Yeah. Constantly.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I think the older I've gotten, the more emotional I've gotten. I've always cried a lot. And part of that I'm highly empathic. So, but I think that's from trauma. I don't think that's like
natural.
Well, I don't. I think I was forced to watch the micro vibrations of people and how they function, how they act, how they function in society, how they treat each other. I learned behaviors too, because I don't think I was taught some of the behaviors. Well, at least if I was severely damaged before I learned how to use them. Yeah.
Well, and I think if you grow up in a unstable house, if you grow up abused, if you grow up, there's a long list of things.
Right.
You, especially at a really young age, you're forced to read people constantly, because even if you didn't know, like I didn't know it as a kid. I didn't know I was reading people. No. I was always told I was just untrustworthy because, people have to warm up to me because I just don't trust people right away. I have to read them,
No.
And I think that can kind of lean into empathy a little bit, where I don't know, maybe it doesn't. I don't know where I'm going with that, but
no, the empathy
I have an idea in my head, but
but the empathy is a huge part of that. And I think that's what happens is like, and this happened to me when I was 5, and this is part of my story, is that, when I was 5, I realized something was wrong with the world,
Yeah.
Or really this is not the way it was supposed to be. Like, this is not the design that was supposed to be in place. Like, why choose to come to such a hellish, abusive place? From, and then if you get recycled, why the fuck would you choose to come back here?
Right.
It's like, good Lord.
Yeah.
I need intimacy, love, care, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Something I've never really experienced. It's probably something that you're probably more apt to experience it than I am.
More what?
To feel love, tenderness, affection, care.
Mm-hmm. I mean, have you ever been in love?
Yeah, but the one she's never known. And the other, we drove each other nuts. And we brought the best out of each other and the worst out in each other. And she'd touch me on the back of my neck. I mean, I was, it's one of the things I love. She just rubbed the back of my neck. And I think a lot of men actually like that. It's a sign
of people like that.
Well, yeah, probably. But it doesn't, it's only happened once or twice in my life. So is that love, or is that just?
I don't know. I don't know what love is.
Wow.
I think I've been in love.
Really?
I think so. It didn't end well, and it was painful. And it's hard to be like, oh, I was in love when that person did so much harm, where you don't even want to be like, oh, that was my first love, because the things he did to me were awful. But
so it's just better love than you were shown than when you were a kid. That's it.
Well, I guess
it was just
all I knew was
a better version of, you were willing
to
enter into the abuse at that point.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't.
What else?
Well, and that's
no.
Like
how? Yeah.
So it's not about being, and that here we'll touch on this. Like, I don't feel like I'm a victim anymore.
Yeah.
I am no longer a victim. I haven't been a victim for about 4 years, 3 to 4 years. We'll say that. Honestly, to be straight honest, I was like, I'm done being it. And that's where joy came into my life. And that's where, and then we met probably a year or maybe 2 after that. I going back to the earlier part, I still have a low grade, consistent depression. It's like a constant line that's always there.
Like a little buzzing back of your head.
Yeah, that's always there. And I'm always avoiding going to that pond, basically.
Yeah.
But sometimes I get drawn in, and it's like the enchantment. It's like Excalibur in the water. You're enchanted by the beauty of the water, and you see the sword just below it, but you jump in and you drown. Now, in that story, I come out with a sword.
Right.
That's the miracle. But it's swallowed a lot of souls prior to that, with a lot of enchantment prior to that. One person got lucky.
Yeah. I don't know.
So going back to this portion of it is of the actual decision. Sorry, Drunken Monk is starting to get buzzed.
It's mine now. There's nothing in there.
Oh, I'll get you some more. We can pause that. It goes back to the logical decision. Can you honestly say it? What are you, 22, 23? 23?
Almost 23. Couple months. Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'll fly you out and we'll have a
November.
Yeah, I should fly you out to Colorado. Or
I'm trying to plan a trip to Colorado at some point. So if you're there, well, if I plan
I'll be wherever. I got a car.
You have a car.
And a motorcycle. Yeah. So I'm within 12 hours of everything in the West. And that's only one day's drive.
Yeah. You drive me out to California?
To the Redwoods.
I've missed those.
Then I'll fly you back home because that's where I die.
You want to die in the Redwoods? It's beautiful.
It's actually a very neat place.
Yeah,
I've never been there. That's my number one bucket list in the United States.
You've never been?
No, so that's hopefully. It's actually
beautiful.
My goal.
Yeah.
Is to hit them by November.
Okay.
So maybe we'll work that out.
Yeah.
I would like to hit them before the snow.
Yeah, don't hit them too hard. They're old trees.
Oh, I'll hit them. That's some big wood. start getting that shit on. I'm going to be hugging so much wood.
Yeah. Some old wood.
Old wood.
Yeah.
Before those motherfuckers burned down because of stupidity from the humanity of, from just humanity.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I think logic has to have a consistent role and play in something like this, because you're taken away. So the only reason I've come to this point, it's not because I'm done. That's a tough one. I am tired, very, very tired.
Yeah.
Tired of fighting. Nothing in life has gone well for me, and I've been a large contributor to that. But again, I can blame my parents, I can blame my society, I can blame whatever, but I've just literally fucked up.
Yeah. Self-sabotage.
Well, it's unknowing, because I've always tried to better myself and be better, to gain wisdom, to gain knowledge, to teach myself.
But how you gain wisdom is through all the crappy shit.
Through a lot of adversity, yes.
Yeah.
It's through a lot of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And well, you have too. We've both suffered greatly in this life. And I think me being 53 and you being almost 23.
My early 20s.
Yeah, I could not. I would be in the same position as my pastor on this, because what I would want to do is come alongside you and hold your hand and let you walk on your own and push you, and when you fall with you.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're ready to get back up, help you back up. And that's what I think. Yeah, I haven't quite unpacked all that. That'll be the beauty of recording all this.
Yeah.
I could, even sitting here thinking about you and talking with you about this, but I'm a little emotional, because I know this is a struggle for you, and I know what you have to face is hard going forth. The story of your life will be difficult if you don't have someone to walk alongside you and talk to you about this, because there's a, and that's what I've always found with me throughout the years. If I can talk about something, I'll generally recognize it, and then I can do something about it. When I can't talk about it, it turns to anger, rage, depression, self-harm, suicidal thoughts, self-destruction. It's an implosion of many things that happen, and many things fire off. And so the question is, how do we let somebody stand alongside us, come alongside us? How does that happen?
I don't know.
I mean, I think I'm probably the closest that somebody's gotten to you on this subject.
You are. Yeah.
So.
And I think a big thing for me is just being willing to have help.
You do have to be willing to get muddy.
Yeah, you have to be willing to. And there's something so deeply rooted inside me to be like, no, I can do. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it myself.
Right. Well,
and even if I know in the back of my head that I can't, because I've tried and I just keep falling over and over and over and over, and every time it just gets worse. And then people leave because you're like, you've changed, but for the worst. Sorry.
No, here's what happens is the people are in for the long haul. This is a long haul. This is a lifetime. This is a hard thing to do.
Right. I think part of it is I know how much that I have done alone my whole life and had to get over things and go through things completely alone. So
that's the funny thing. Excuse me. We'll touch on that, because I think that's the important thing, and that's why I'm at where I'm at. And so it's hard for, I've been abandoned. I have huge abandonment issues. My parents literally dropped us off and didn't tell us where they were going or when they were coming back.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, well, I know that's where it started. I'm living with my aunt for an undisclosed amount of time at 8 years old, 7 years old. And now I get to watch my sister get beat with a switch every day. Because she's different. She's hyper intelligent. My sister is super stupid. Don't get me wrong. She's a fucking dumbass. If she was nurtured, if she was loved, if she was taken care of, if she wasn't beaten, if she wasn't molested, if she wasn't raped, she would have been, and if she wasn't abused by a wicked mom, she would have been an incredible woman. But she turned out to be a piece of shit. She's super, super smart. She's way smarter than I'll ever be. My daughter, my youngest daughter, who is her daughter, is smarter than all my kids. And she doesn't work at it at all.
Yeah.
At all. I mean, she's just hyper intelligent. She have street smarts? No. Thank God. Thank God. Because I sure as hell didn't want her to grow up that way.
Right.
We need people to come alongside us, to give us an opportunity. Probably the longest discussion we've ever had.
Ever? I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't.
Yeah. Like serious discussion on that subject. We got a little rabbit trail, but not bad.
Maybe a couple times. But yeah.
So do you have an alias? Do you want to call yourself something? Because I don't want to put your name on that.
Danny.
Danny, I like that.
D-A-N-I. Thanks.
Denny?
Danny. D-A-N-I.
Oh. Yeah, there's my dyslexia.
Your dyslexia? That's okay. I have severe dyslexia. Do you have any more questions about
I mean, I got a shit ton of questions. We could do this for fucking hours, but
dying? Any good ones?
let's look. I had Chat GPT formulate
Let's get morbid. Huh?
formulate some. So I know your method. You've told me your method.
That's one. And that was a certain time too.
I know. But man, maybe we shouldn't talk about that. I don't really want to talk about that because it's not really
Okay.
encouraging.
No, it's not encouraging. It's enabling almost.
Oh, well, kind of.
Maybe not enabling. Is
But
it?
you know, here's the
right
thing.
word?
It's not like I'm against it.
Right.
So I just think there's like, for me, I wish, and that's the thing. It keeps going back to the same thing for me. I think people in general, not just people like us, I don't want to put us in a category of suicides, but I think people who struggle need others to walk alongside them. And we've gotten so far away from community and help. And now we're so hyper independent that we're willing to forgo help
Yeah.
when we actually need it. And that's just on a general scale. It's like, oh, you're down today. Well, how about we bake? How about we bake some cookies today?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Danny, let's go for a walk.
Right.
Let's lift your spirits a little bit. Let's spend 20 minutes.
I think, a part of the whole community thing is for people who have, I grew up in a community, right? In the Christian community at church.
Right.
And I was told that is where my community lies.
Right,
That's what it is.
Right.
And when you have that community completely betray you and do horrible things, and then you're told, no, this is good, this is a good community, then you kind of have to, after getting out of that, completely rebuild your idea of what community is and what it means.
Right. And you don't really have a
takes
good
time.
idea.
No, I don't.
There is no good idea. Honestly, there isn't. And it took me, excuse me. So the first time, I want to be careful here because it might not be true. The first time I can think of at this point in my life that I had real friends started about 4 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
people who actually love me and care for me and accept me for 98% of who I am. This part's very hard. This 2% is very hard for them, but it's 85% of my life that they don't know about.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult to lay that on somebody, and I don't want to put it on somebody.
No.
I have all my friends are smarter than I am, and I do that intentionally. When I pick people who are intelligent because I need to learn. I don't know how. I learn from those people.
Yeah.
I learn their behaviors, and I'm not just saying like book smart or mathematicians or anything like that. I'm talking about life smart, like how they build families, how they build relationships, what their wisdom is.
Yeah.
They just so happen to be really good at business because I live in an entrepreneurial area.
Yeah.
So that's the caveat to that. But some of my smartest friends are not rich though. They're just really fucking intelligent and they retain information. Wow. I just went on a rabbit trail in my own mind on that one.
Yeah.
Let me just kind of read some of it.
Sure.
Do you have a support system or people you can talk to when you're struggling?
No, but I think I kind of did that to myself.
I mean, you do. You got me, but in general, just take me out of the equation.
I do. Okay, yeah.
And you don't even utilize me, so that's the other thing. You have it.
Sorry.
Well, no, let's talk about this because you do have the opportunity. I have the opportunity.
Yeah.
So why not take advantage of that? Why not relieve some of that pain, even if it's just for a moment?
I think there's even a small sense of fear getting better and getting help.
Why?
Why?
Well, and that's a good question, and that's actually a really good statement. There is a fear of getting better.
Yeah.
And this is the thing with humanity across the board. You touched on something that's very important. Most people don't change. Most people don't change because they fear the unknown of getting better and what they'll have to do to get there. And here's the thing, it may not be better.
Yeah.
It may not be better.
It might just get worse.
It might just get worse. But
yeah,
you'll never know unless you try.
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you this, just because it didn't work for me, man, I fucking tried.
Yeah.
I dug myself out a lot of fucking holes.
It's exhausting. Trying and then...
Well, failing, and here's the thing. If, again, I'll go back to this every time. If you have somebody to walk beside you,
yeah,
it's not because I didn't have a tenacious demeanor. It's not because I'm Irish as fuck. I mean, we fight till we're done. We fight till we're done. That's the Irish way. It's our blood. It was my father's way. It was my uncle's way. You know, I got this honestly. I fight, and I fight hard, and I give it everything I've got. Yeah. And I feel like I've given it everything I've got. Like something, for me, it has to be divine intervention. No, that's not humanly possible to change my mind.
Yeah.
You got anything else you want to express? Tell us, enlighten us with? This was actually really fun for me. This was... Yeah.
For me too. It was more fun than I thought it was going to be for me, actually.
I didn't know how this was going to go, honestly.
Me neither.
I barely get shit out of your mouth anyway. And it's like,
I know.
You're just like, we went to town on this.
Well, yeah. Well, once you get me started, you can't stop me. That's
fair.
Definitely...
I mean, we both ran down the rabbit hole, so.
Yeah, multiple times. I mean, half of it was about a bunch of other shit, so. Well,
that's all right. It still plays into it. See, and that's what I was going to tell you that earlier. It's a big part of what plays into this for me is I see the world for what it is. And it's not a negative thing. I feel the pain of it.
Yeah.
And I see the pain in it.
It ties into the empathy, and it doesn't have to be.
Well, it does, and I can't wrap my, like, I'll start bawling here.
Yeah.
Well, I will, because if I try to expose myself because I'm so emotional. I try to expose myself to, especially handicapped people. Oh, man, I gotta be careful here. I'll start bawling.
What do you mean by that word?
Like I just started following a girl. She's 10 years old. Her mom posts all the time, but she can barely speak. She's got she's 10. I think I said that. And she's got those walkers, like helper walkers for her arms, cerebral palsy. And she is joy. She's like, as joyful as she is and as happy as she is, she don't even tell you she's happy and joyful. And what she likes most is her sticks. And
you can see it though.
Well, no, it's why is the world so broken?
Right. And sometimes you see the most joy in the most broken people who have been handed horrible things to deal with.
Right.
And I saw that all my life, seeing people who were 7 years old and dying.
Well, and maybe I can't wrap my head around the fact that I'm fully able
And yet don't even have an ounce
of that joy.
of that joy that they have. And you sit there and you look at them and you're like, how?
Yeah.
Right?
Like, because I this goes back to my hypothesis on this, is that when you have somebody walk beside you, no matter how broken you are, you can thrive, and you can be something more than you ever thought you could be, and you can go farther than you ever thought possible.
You just got to find somebody who's going to stay, and that, at least for me and my half of things, that's the problem. Is it's not finding somebody, it's finding somebody who will actually stay.
Right.
And, having severe abandonment issues doesn't help.
Well, no,
of course not, because you automatically assume that they're not going to.
And you push them away.
And so you push them away, and you do things purposefully, whether you know it or not,
and feeling people.
Keep all the good people out and all the bad people in.
And people who feel will take those hints.
Yeah.
And walk away. They'll step back because they want to respect your space.
And because, to an extent, you can almost see that in somebody when they're not going to try.
Yeah.
So why help them, right?
But I see potential.
Right.
You just don't know how to try yet. That's the way I see it. Like, no, I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying that.
In general.
I see your potential, and how do I help you see that, at least a portion of that, so you'll push forward.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what happened between you and I. Like, you still immensely struggle.
Sure. And I have mostly accepted that is never going to go away.
But it could. And I think it can.
Yeah.
And I think it's perspective. And I think I think it has to do with success. And that's why I keep trying
to push. It's hard when you have doctors telling you the opposite perspective.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
Talk to David Goggins on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Motherfucker ran a marathon with shin splints.
Mm-hmm.
And recovered and did it again and again and again.
Yeah.
Just it's mindset for him.
And I think
but you
have to make that choice every single day. You can't just make it once.
Right.
And
and that's the hard thing. Yeah. Especially for people who his story is very different, but Goggins is, and he had adversity, and then being black on top of that, I think he struggled with some things like that and some racial things, and then just he was overweight and being fat and struggled with that and worked through that. So, but he experienced success, and then he experienced teamwork, and then he experienced camaraderie, and then he experienced love because of the work he put in and respect. And I think that's what it takes. A little bit of success. If somebody can walk alongside, show a little bit, encourage people like us to succeed in little ways, we'll continue to succeed despite, and that's what makes us powerful, because we have a story to back the success.
Right.
We have something solidified that says we've overcome the treacherous deficits of life.
Right. Without any handouts.
Without handouts, but with help.
Yeah.
And those people generally sit in the shadows, but they're glad to sit in the shadows to watch you succeed. They're glad to walk alongside you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need no recognition because I love you, because I want something for you.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing. And we don't have that anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of people that I've known. I wouldn't say a lot. I would say a small amount of people that I would have absolutely loved for them to be able to see me get better and succeed.
Right. To transition.
Right.
Yeah.
But when they can't, or they won't, and I don't know. It's hard. It doesn't make it impossible, but it does make it hard.
It does make it hard. And honestly, that's one of my biggest fears because of our relationship and our friendship and knowing the depths of it is encouraging this very thing for you. because I see so much more for you. So it's a
Yeah.
double-edged sword, and it's contradictory in nature. People can comment all they want. I don't give a shit. They can fuck off. They don't understand.
Yeah.
This is the hell that we both live in, and there's nothing more that I want to see than for you to find life
Mm-hmm.
in the midst of this adversity,
Yeah.
and to find it genuinely, not just to put a Band-Aid on shit, but to find life genuinely. And I think that's through joy, because joy allows you to experience hardship with a positive outlook.
Yeah.
So based on that, I would recommend the Book of Joy by Desmond Tutu. And
The Book of Joy.
yeah, the Book of Joy. It was Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama, and that was great. That was a great book. They both come from very different backgrounds and have the same thing to say.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. And one's Catholic, one's Buddhist, and I think he's Buddhist. Don't quote me on that. Probably get in trouble if I fuck that up.
Mm.
I'll probably get in trouble just because I said I fucked that up. But
No.
what a fantastic book. The other one would be Caroline Leaf. She's an English author, neuroscientist.
Mm-hmm.
Switch on Your Brain. Fantastic book.
Yeah.
It's about rewiring the things, your thought process, your brain.
Who's it by? That book?
Caroline Leaf.
Carolina Leaf.
Yeah. She's taken trauma patients, like brain injury patients,
Mm-hmm.
and taken them from basically almost a vegetative state to graduating high school and moving on to college, and all within a short period of time, because it's just the power of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of it. But if we don't have that consistent coaching, we have no idea what we're capable of.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate thing. So hopefully that's what this creates.